Now, from CBS 4 News, this is Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede.
Good morning, I'm Jim DeFede, and welcome to Facing South Florida. When I went on vacation, the idea of impeaching President Trump was dead. But what a difference 2 weeks can make. And the president has no one to blame but himself. Asking foreign governments like Ukraine and now China to investigate his political opponents is a stunning development. Joining me this morning to discuss that and other subjects is Democratic Congresswoman Frederica Wilson. Congresswoman Wilson has represented parts of Miami-Dade and Broward counties since 2011. Congresswoman, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks so much for having me.
So I know that you held off on advocating for impeachment for a long time. Some people may be surprised by that, but you were not one of those ones who rushed in to sort of call for impeachment. You only came out more recently. What changed your mind to move forward with an inquiry?
Well, I began to change my mind when I could see that the president was interfering in the investigation of his involvement with the Russian interference and interfering with the committees as they sought to seek the truth. They were looking for the truth, and that's what I wanted, the truth. But he was interfering and telling of his staff not to show up. They shouldn't go. And I began to say, this is wrong. This is it's wrong. So that's when I began to change my mind. And then what really caused me to say no was after the Ukraine explosion.
What was it about that troubles you? His calling for Ukraine to try to help in investigating Joe Biden and disprove that Russia interfered in the 2016 election. What is it about that you think merits investigation?
I think when we went through the Nixon impeachment, that was all domestic. And now this is an international incident. We already know that the Mueller report showed that Russia interfered in our 2016 election. And now we have another country, so this becomes national security at risk. So when we talk about the one thing that makes us a democracy, an election, and we have foreign governments interfering,
at the invitation of the president.
At the invitation of the president, and a president who admitted that he invited them to do that? See, my fear was always the Senate. I knew that the House would not have a problem impeaching him because we control the numbers. We can count. And we knew that if it got to that and we finally got through all of our investigative committees, et cetera, we would impeach him. But that's just the first step. The second step involves putting the President of the United States on trial in the Senate with a Republican majority, and I knew that was going to hit a brick wall. Bam. Then the president, I knew, would have almost a year to go around saying, see, it's a witch hunt. I told you, no obstruction, nothing. It's a witch hunt. They're just after me. They're trying to destroy my presidency. And that kind of rhetoric can sometimes impact our electorate to the point that they believe him. So that was my hesitation about going full-fledged to an impeachment inquiry or to an impeachment, but just sticking with finding the facts.
The Senate is probably still likely not to convict him. So why move forward then if the Senate's still going to shut it down?
I think that after we have exposed everything, because I don't think Ukraine is the only nation, the only country that he approached. I really don't. And I think once we finish, the Senate will have no choice but to put him on trial and to convict him.
You believe that there is a chance the Senate could actually convict him, that there are Republicans in the Senate who would be willing to find this president guilty and remove him from office?
After we expose all of this to the American people, and after we expose his financial dealings, See, it's not just Ukraine. We have other investigations going on. That is just the one that has caught the eye of the American people. It was like a gift, really. We weren't even expecting that.
Some people say you've got an election in a year. Why not wait until the election and just do it that way, as opposed to trying to remove him 6 months, 9 months earlier than the election would have it?
Well, if we leave him, what kind of election would we have? He's already said what he's going to do. He says it every day. He says it outside of the White House. He says it on the White House grounds. Who ever heard of a president asking countries to help him interfere in an election? He never even owned up to the fact that Russia interfered, and his own Justice Department, his own CIA, FBI showed proof that Russia interfered in our election. President Trump is a president who was crowned president. He was not elected president. And that is exactly, and he knows that, and he studied that, and that's what he wants to happen again. So because all of this has been exposed, that's why we've got to do it. Our national security is at risk. Our Constitution is at risk.
Are you concerned at all that the discussion about impeachment ends up taking away from Congress's ability to do other things on health care, on gun reform legislation, on those issues that voters may truly care about as well, and may be saying to themselves, because the president's out going around saying the do nothing Democrats, that's his new phrase, that they're so caught up in impeachment, they're not dealing with prescription medicine, they're not dealing with health care, they're not dealing with trying to find solution on guns. Can the president make that case effectively, you think?
I don't think so, because every committee in Congress, in the House of Representatives, is continuing its work. And I just had a big hearing on prescription drug prices, on Leader Pelosi's bill that's going to hit the floor and that's going to pass. And the people who crowded the hearing room where I chaired the hearing, they're gung-ho. I had a hearing on medical billing. I've had hearings on education issues, student loans. We've had labor issues, so many hearings. What the people are going to learn is the fact that all of the bills and legislation that we pass go to the Senate to die in McConnell's graveyard, and that's what he calls it. He calls it McConnell's graveyard. So we have over 85 bills that we have passed, substantive bills that help working people, that help the middle class. We've all passed them out of the House of Representatives, and they're in the Senate waiting for Mr. McConnell to call them to the floor for a vote.
I want to ask you about your recent trip to Bahamas in a second, but I just want to stay on politics for a moment. You've endorsed Kamala Harris, the senator from California,
yes, I have,
for president.
Yes.
Are you disappointed in how she's doing so far? Her numbers seem to be tracking down in the polls. What advice would you give her to try to turn her campaign around?
I think Kamala Harris is a victim of the press. I don't think they give her the type of exposure that they give to the other candidates. And I'm disappointed in the press that they're doing that. And I've seen that happen sometimes in my own campaigns as I've come through the different levels of campaigning. And Kamala Harris will present an excellent proposal, an excellent idea. And they'll say it, but they won't cover it, and they won't interview her. And you start to pay attention, you'll see exactly what I'm saying. They are favorites of the press. I call them media darlings, and they get all of the press. They don't give it to Kamala.
Can Joe Biden, with the damage that President Trump is trying to inflict on him, can Joe Biden win the presidency if he's the Democratic nominee?
It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. It's not only going to be hard for the electorate, it's going to be hard on him. I don't know if Joe Biden has the stamina, the strength to take on President Trump, because President Trump is crazy. He's not a well person, and he's a terrible man, and he's beating up on this man, and there's only so much you can take. And so I worry about him.
Let me ask you about your trip to the Bahamas. I know that you just recently came back. How bad is the devastation there, and what should the U.S. be doing more?
It's really bad, and I want to say that the United States has been wonderful in its partnership and its outreach, USAID, the Coast Guard, everyone, the people of Miami, I mean, of the United States, which are so generous with the Bahamas. But Bahamas is open and ready for business. The 10% of the Bahamas was affected. You know, there are 700 islands in the Bahamas, and I am the first Bahamian elected to Congress. And so Abaco is my ancestral home. Abaco is leveled. Abaco is gone.
But the rest of the Bahamas are open for business.
The rest of the Bahamas
and they need the business right now.
And they need the business. So grab a plane, grab a ship, go to the Bahamas.
I want to ask you about Haiti in 1 second, but I just want to make sure I get in this because there's you know there's always rumors and speculation. Is Frederica running for re-election? Is she going to retire? Clear it up now. Are you running for re-election in 2020?
Ready to run and have already filed.
So you're committed.
Committed.
All right. We just have about 30 seconds left. How troubled are you by what's going on in Haiti and what needs to be done there?
I'm very troubled. Haiti is bleeding. And when Haiti sheds blood, Dade County sheds blood because we have a huge Haitian diaspora in the United States, right in Miami-Dade County. And so there's a lot of bloodshed, there's a lot of corruption, which we know, and we've got to find a way, we've got to find a solution to interrupt all of that bloodshed. So I'm going to plan a CODEL with the Congressional Black Caucus to Haiti, and probably with some of our local people to go to meet with the opposition.
I gotta cut you there. After you do that trip, we'd love to have you come back and give us a further report, because as you said, Haiti and Miami-Dade, we are tied together. We are one.
Tied together.
All right. Congresswoman Wilson, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
All right. Up next, the race for Miami-Dade County Mayor when we return.